Welcome, everyone. This is Jack Farmer with the Wrestling Chatter, and we have a great show for you. I get to chat with none other than Barry Horowitz and chat all about his career getting started, who he thinks the best wrestlers are, and what he's got lined up in the future. Check it out right now on the Wrestling Chatter. Barry Horowitz, thank you so much for joining us. I'm very excited to chat with you. I always like to start off these kind of conversations with a fun little question. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I was born ready.
What's the best thing that happened to you today?
What is the best what?
The best thing that's happened to you today.
Today. Oh, wow. Number one, I woke up and I was upright. So that's important to be standing.
Mm-hmm.
And just good to be alive and moving forward.
Well, I hope you didn't wake up standing. I hope you woke up sleeping, laying down, and then stood up. So...
That's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. And then I get my day started.
But, well, speaking of getting started, people want to know about wrestling, obviously, listening to this show and listening to you. I want to dive right in, if that's okay.
Sure.
Of course, I did my research, and you were a wrestling fan. You started like a lot of us. You saw it on TV. You fell in love with it, but you later started training with Boris Malenko. And I saw on another interview, you said that the Malenkos are the very best. And I want to ask you, what specifically makes the Malenkos the best in your opinion?
That is a excellent question. Sounds cliche to the fans, maybe to yourself, maybe to George, but not to me, because that's awesome. I'm glad you asked that. And it's night and day. First of all, yeah, I did start, watching wrestling, but this is just my opinion. This isn't for everybody. I really thought the proper steps. And what is that? You just don't. You're building a house, you start in the basement, you don't go right to the attic or the third bedroom. You start at the foundation. What does that mean? It means getting yourself in better shape, getting that mindset, which is, I'm only 19 years old, and I started pro when I was 21, and the proper training. Malenkos, number one, synonymous name. Malenkos and his son, Jody and Dean Malenko. Your whole statement is almost underrated with me as far as they're supreme. They're like universe. I mean, am I being partial? Compared to other people that have gotten trained in what I did, I was there 18 months, 3 days a week, part-time job, training with weights, 3 hours a night in a mattress factory in Tampa. That was probably about 100 degrees in the summer, 40 in the winter. And I actually started in a judo school taking bumps on mats, about like that. And that'll toughen you up too. So what I saw as I progressed and I got polished, so to speak, going up and down the roads, my foundation was good. The rest is all up to me. My mindset, being a leader, not a follower, and hanging with people in this business and listening to them, and match after match and state after state. This is what progresses a pro wrestler to be good, to graduate to great. And I've always strived for greatness to this day.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned all this. Personally, Dean Malenko was actually one of my favorites for a long time. And as a fan, not being in wrestling, people would always say, well, why do you like Dean Malenko? And I'd say, I don't know why. There's just something about him. I think he's great. I don't know all the things that happen in the ring and stuff. There's just something about him that I was always drawn to, seeing him compete. And so it's always interesting to hear someone like yourself who's worked with him, but also understands wrestling, that can kind of break down why he seems great to a viewer as opposed to someone else in this wild world of pro wrestling. Mm-hmm. Is there anything about him or the Malenkos that in the ring, when you're watching, that you would watch and say that is what makes them great?
Well, yeah, just both of them. I mean, all three of them, their strive for greatness, their perfection, dotting every I, crossing every T, keeping all the ducks in a row, tell a great story that basically they're the perfect wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
And I strive myself to be that way also. I mean, Dean Malenko is probably the best technical wrestler in the world. I'm not going to say I'm number 2, but I'm at least in top 10. And I'm not putting myself over. If I was, because I'd be the only one putting myself over. Nobody else is. But yeah, they're perfectionists. Their moves, their holds, their submissions, everything you could think of to do in a professional, they check every box. Make a long story short.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think I do too. I strive for it anyway.
Something that, going back to another interview you did and speaking about striving for perfection and being good, is you said that you can work with anybody, and you said literally you could make The Undertaker look good in 3 minutes. Tell me about the role and how do you make someone, as we say, look good in a match as opposed to just having a match? Because to peel back the curtain, I work with some wrestling here in Southern California in Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy. I talk to a lot of students. I would love to share your information with them. What is the difference between having a 3-minute match and making someone look good in a 3-minute match?
Well, first of all, let's just start off with check your ego at the door. Some veterans don't even know this little secret I'm about to tell you. Get the match over. Not your opponent, not me. The get the match over means the referee, yourself, your opponent, the crowd. Unless you're told by the billionaire boss, you need to get over in 10 seconds. You do what you're told, or you're not doing your job, and that means out the door. Which you need to do what you're not doing nothing wrong. You're listening, and I'm a firm believer in that. But yeah, just you have to. Okay, here we go. This is the scenario. We will use The Undertaker. First of all, he's a good worker. His gimmick is awesome, and he works the gimmick good. And he's not just your average big man. No. So he's already, the whole mix is there. It's for me to sell his stuff properly and go with the flow. Because I don't care who you are. You could be out there with Flair, Hogan, Paul Orndorff, Bob Orton Jr. If you don't go, it doesn't make them look good, and it makes them look sloppy. But today's society, the smart marks know who could work and who can't. They can.
Right.
Not 20 years ago. So that is the difference if I am working with somebody, and he's more polished. You got some guys that don't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch, and basically you got to run that match. That is my job. That is my job, and I got to do it well. I'm the leader. So this is what you have to do in 3 minutes, and it's challenging. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. Even though you're still doing it, if this guy doesn't have a clue, it could still be choppy. Now, that's Monday night. Let's say Tuesday night I'm in the TV and we're doing the taping. Well, we need you to go 9 minutes with Owen Hart. Completely different story. Why? Both accomplished workers, both have the same skill set, the same mindset. Get the match over. It's going to be supreme. No egos involved. If you're worried about your win-loss record, get on the phone to Dana White, go in there with Brock for about 10 seconds, and you'll beg Vince for a job back, or whoever else is in charge.
Right. Now, all that said, you go out there, you have your match, whether it be against Owen Hart, Undertaker, whoever it is.
Whoever.
I love the phrase, get the match over, don't get yourself over. But it's also one of those things I can imagine a lot of people listening to this or hearing this going, that sounds great. I agree with it. But when you go back to the curtain, bell rings, match is over, you go back to the curtain. What is some stuff that has happened in the match that makes you feel like the match got over? Is it just audience reaction? Is it the way that people greet you in the back? What is it that makes you go, the match got over?
It's all of the above. It's all of the above. And last but not least, in my mind, I know what I go over it. I've always did it to this day. I go over it. It's not overthinking, it's thinking. There's a difference. You don't want to overthink, you mess up. You underthink, you don't give a crap. But to keep it in the middle, that's very hard. It requires more work, more physical exertion, mental awareness. You need all that. It's good for you, period. So, and you perfect your craft that way. Otherwise, you don't give a crap and you will not progress. I come through the curtain, different people. I mean, if I come through that curtain and Bret Hart standing there and Ronnie Garvin standing there or Tony Gurria or a plethora of other people, Bob Backlund, all these other accomplished athletes, I believe them. Why would they have to? They don't have to blow smoke, you know. They're shooting with me. So that, and also when I was talking about the thinking, is many times when I'm done with my matches, I'm showering, or I'm going home, or I'm in a car, or I'm going to sleep. I go over my whole match because I've got it down, and I go, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do too much of this? Did you throw too many punches? Did you get a European uppercut in? Did you get that drop toe hold in? Did you get that leapfrog in? Arm drag, Northern Light suplex. Oh, I missed this. Okay, you got to tune it up. It keeps you on your toes. A lot of guys don't do that. I do. I'm not out to. This is what I do when I'm on the road. That's my job. I'm not out to party. I'm not out to get bed late. To do my thing, and that's rest, recovery, so I can go to next day.
Do you find yourself replaying things and sort of beating yourself up over things that were supposed to happen that maybe didn't, or do you just focus on your strengths? I'm one of those people, I look back at things and I think of every little and I say during an interview, for instance. Do you do that with wrestling matches, or are you pretty good about going, this is what happened, time to move on?
I do a little bit of everything you just said. See, if you overdo it, again, you're overthinking. But if you take a little bit from here, what you said, and here, and it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you like going from a good worker to a great worker. Near perfection.
I want to ask you about someone you know, Dutch Mantel. He has a podcast or an interview I saw, and you came up. And he called you the reverse Goldberg. I want to talk to you about, you obviously, you got a lot of losses. And I want to talk to you about working with him and this idea that you were going to lose a lot and then get the big win. Is that something that sort of happened by happenstance? Was it something that was pitched to you? What was your thoughts on this, and how did you receive it? What was it like for you going through this story?
Oh, it was phenomenal. I'm getting a push. I'm in my home state. Not too many people get a push in their home state. I mean, Brian Blair, Steve Kern, a couple of other guys, but you know, it was really an honor, and they changed my name, and it was Dutch's idea. I thought it was awesome. I thought it worked. It did work. Some people copied it and failed. Some people tweaked it and did well, which I commend them. And you know, yeah, I liked the way we did that. It was incredible, and I was just, you know, basically listening to him and learning myself, and learning from other guys that were in the territory, like Mike Graham and Michael Hayes, and there was a plethora of wrestlers there that could help me with all this stuff. But I'm going to say my main was probably between me and Dutch.
And so, because you did that while working with him, but you also sort of did it again with WWE. And again, was this because you talk about checking egos at the door and things? Was there a small part of your ego that was saying, I don't want to lose though? Like, or did you just trust the process and know that this is what you're there to do?
No, a little bit of both right there again. Trust the process. And this is my dream. Not everybody could be a winner. Not everybody could be Kevin Nash or Hulk Hogan or any of these other top guys. You can't. Otherwise, it'd be boring. Just like you should have different matches on a card. You have a hardcore match, you have a tag match, you have a wrestling match. You know what I mean? It creates excitement and it keeps it fresh. If you go to a restaurant, it has 3 things on the menu, and that's it. You're leaving, or it's the same thing every night. You gotta. Variety's the spice of life, and no, I had no ego problems with that. Not because I didn't care, because believe me, you do it wrong, you're out the door. You refuse and you don't want to do it. That's not cool. You're not a team player. So guess what? They'll get somebody that wants to do it. You know how many people beg to be in my spot right this minute? So I'm grateful. Would I have liked more? And what? Yeah, sure. But no sour grapes. No sour grapes at all. Because every day I can look in the mirror and say, I never failed a drug test. I worked hard. I'm in the gym paying my dues. I've been trained by the best. It's up to the power of the pencil, which means the booker, that wants to work with me. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's bad. His choices. But, work hard. And I can, like I said, never been helped by different people in the business, but my dad wasn't a promoter. My brother wasn't a worker. So I did it on myself. I invented the hand on the back, everything I do. And as far as being a technical wrestler, all of that's Malenko trained, and the rest was getting polished on the road. I mean, remember now, when my first territory was Charlotte, North Carolina, Jim Crockett, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. I'm driving with Jimmy Valiant, Rufus R. Jones, Steamboat, Youngblood, Rotundo, Bob Orton Jr., sometimes Flair, and you're listening to them. They're helping you. They're not ribbing you or nothing, and you watch. You were required to stay to the end, watch every match, and I did. That's my job. I want to get better. This is my dream. I would watch Georgia Championship Wrestling, World Class Florida, anything I could get my hands on, to just pick and choose and just look at little things. It's almost like when they Monday morning comes and they have to go into the quarterback's room. Tom Brady's there, or Peyton Manning, or what have you, and they're going over everything. They're still there on time because they strive for perfection, and that's why they did so well. If you want to half-ass it, well, go for that and see how it goes for you. I don't think well.
Absolutely. And you're someone who's still to this day, even though we talk about the losing streak, you're still someone to this day who is known amongst pro wrestling fans and is beloved amongst pro wrestling fans. And a lot of that, I think, goes back to the day that you beat Skip. And I want to ask you now, we know the story, you beat Skip, but I want to ask you about, did you feel a difference in the way people perceived you, whether it be as fans or wrestlers in the back, or after that big moment for you, did you feel a difference and see a difference in how things were being reacted to as far as you're concerned?
I would say the biggest takeaway from that sentence is the fans. They're the underdog. They knew I could work. They knew I could do stuff, and they know, well, he got his break. 20 years ago, they would perceive it in a different way. But no, they were very appreciative. To this day, they are. And I'm sure other guys thought of it. Some congratulate, some that's cool. That it's a little bit different in the wrestling business than being a team player on the NFL. So that's all. So I perceived it mostly from the fans and outside the squared circle.
Speaking of fans, you have a fan that I chatted to before this interview today, and he's a huge fan of yours. His name is Halston Body. He works with Santino Brothers out here in California, and he had a question for you, and I want to ask you this question now. He asks, as you went from one character to the next, to being the Jewish superstar, Barry Horowitz, etc., were there any other characters that you had ideas for or pitched or that Vince wanted to do? Or was that did you kind of do everything that was pitched and all the ideas? If that makes sense.
I really didn't have too many ideas about. I concentrated more on my work. staying in shape, wrestling. Like Chris Candido once told me, he says, Barry, our gimmick is we know how to wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a hand on the back, but
right.
yeah, there was no reason. Now, you could just wrestle, but you need a little pizzazz in there because it is sports entertainment. But I proudly say this: sports entertainment is second on my list. I'm a professional wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I am. So, it could be almost boring a little bit. So maybe the costume's a little bit different, maybe a little sprinkle of entertainment, and then stick to that solid, good wrestling. Because I don't care if you're in the cheap seats or the ringside. When you see a fancy suplex or a fancy chain wrestling move or some kind of submission I've never seen before, I even gawk at that. I go, this is a real pro. He's been taught. I mean, a clothesline, a punch, and rake the eyes don't impress me.
Yeah, right.
I could see that. I could actually see on a Friday night in the back of Chili's restaurant for free in an alleyway.
Right.
So I'm not impressed. I'm impressed with perfection and art.
Who are some people today that are wrestling that stand out to you that can do those things?
Wow. There's really a lot of good wrestlers, and I mean that wholeheartedly, in AEW and Impact Wrestling. I've seen some on indie shows, and basically what stands out to me is just everything that I do. I kind of mirror myself to other people.
Right.
I mean, but I don't knock something like if something's hardcore or you're doing this or that's fine for them. So as long as you do it right and solid, it counts.
Right. And now you went from the WWE to WCW, and I want to real quickly kind of ask you this question. It was in 97, I believe, when the war was still pretty hot. Did you notice, what were some differences between the companies during that time that you noticed being from one to the next?
Wow. I think WWE was just bigger and more professional at the time. The announcing team, the venues, the structure, the professionalism, the office people. Yeah, a little bit looser on the WCW, which I enjoyed, and I was enjoying myself on Nitros and Thunders. And some of my buddies were there. So, I think they were both good, but I think WWF had a leg up on them.
You mentioned the announcers. I noticed in another interview you had mentioned that some announcers you liked before were guys like Scott Hudson, who I eventually ended up in WCW. What makes a good announcer to you?
To me, a good announcer. Now, I haven't heard everybody. I mean, there's a pretty good amount on mainstream, and I'm sure there's some in Japan and Mexico, and even some indie shows. But I got to say, hands down, that tandem of Tony Schiavone, Jim Ross, and the Masked Man. Excalibur, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know why that eludes me, but let me tell you something. It's perfect. It's perfect because each one has their own little thing. But what I like is, especially Excalibur, actually all three of them do it, but Excalibur does, I mean, he's naming holds I don't think I know the name of them. And he doesn't miss a beat. And either does Jim Ross, either does Tony Schiavone. They're just, what I like is, I was watching about a month ago, great match on WWE. Guy did a Russian leg sweep. They went right over it. They didn't mention it. They didn't bring it up. Then I've seen them do a schoolboy, and they called it an inside cradle. Well, they're wrong. Because Barry Horowitz said so.
Right.
I know my holds. I know the moves. I do them. Okay. But when you hear Jim Ross or Schiavone or Excalibur, oh, that was a Russian leg sweep. That was an inside arm drag, float over to three-quarter grapevine, late grapevine. Okay, they're going, and people like that. Some get lost, but your hardcore fans, historians, friggin' get off on that. I
Yep.
do.
Yeah.
I do. And or how about Jim Ross going, maybe the leg was attacked. 3-4 minutes later, boy, I hope that quad is all right. See, he tells the story, even if the wrestler misses it. He fills in the gaps.
Right.
Yeah, I think
it's so important. Yeah.
They're friggin' perfect, that those three guys. I love listening to them.
Yeah. They definitely have a good range of voices there. I want to, as we talk from the WCW now, after WCW, you seem to step away, at least from wrestling, for a bit as far as being on TV goes. But you did step back into the ring in 2022 to face Joey Janela. How did that come about? And two, what was it that brought you back?
I remember when I got a phone call from WrestlePro. WrestlePro.com is in New Jersey. Big organization, indie group, really good, run by Kevin Matthews, great guy. He pitched it to me. You know what's funny is that Kevin pitched it to me. He doesn't own $1 billion company.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is two of them. I guess Kevin Matthews is maybe a little bit smarter. So he presents this project to me, and he convinced me. And I said, wow, I'm in shape. I got a little ring rust. Maybe change my hair, my beard, my look. I said, I'm going to try this. Well, knowing matches and watching and having the hunger still and the passion and staying in shape, I have never had a hardcore match in my life. And that day was half of the people. Nobody hardly even knows the story of that. My flight was landing into Jersey late. As soon as I got off, I had an hour and a half interview to do with a Canadian broadcasting company. And then I find out out of 10 matches, we're the main event. And no food in my stomach. And my match didn't go into ring till I think 11 o'clock. And I pulled 30 minutes of hardcore, which I've never did in my life.
Right.
So I'm patting myself on the back for that day and keeping the passion and keeping in shape. Because anybody other, these guys, some guys, not all of them, they wouldn't accept that. They wouldn't do it. Those hardcore matches are half shoot.
Don't get ready, stay ready, as the old saying goes.
Exactly. So that's how that came about. He convinced me. I thank him to this day. I think it, kind of put me on the map in social media between that and my podcasts and my seminars and cameos I do, and other companies. AEW got in touch with me. Mm-hmm. I did promo as the legendary Jewish professional wrestler. I thought that was pretty cool. That. Well, they called me up and asked me, and I felt flattered. And again, if I still got the toolbox full of tools. Just let me open it up every now and then. They're not rusty or anything. Maybe they're a little bit rusty, but they still work and they still look good.
Yep. Well, I agree, and I can't wait to see what you have next. I want to thank you so much for your time. Before we go, though, where can the world follow you online? And is there anything that you've got going on that people can keep an eye out for?
Well, mostly I travel the United States a lot in the Northeast, a lot of meet and greets. I do personal seminars to schools. I have to jam like 3 or 4 hours of my whole career into that. Mm-hmm. So I try to get to the bullet points with young wrestlers. I will go in the ring if it's the right time, right place, right opportunity. I do podcasts. I'm really big and strong on Cameo, YouTube, Facebook. I also own a private auction, which is going on right now by my partner, Richie Sarantino, which is GTG, Good Times, GoodTimesGuaranteed.com. And they sell wrestling memorabilia. Richie runs that for me, and he's also AKA the King of Credit. And according to him, I'm the King of Subway. So I have that going on. Also, I deal with highspots.com, ProWrestlingTees.com. the AEW. I just I'm with everybody. I'm trying to keep myself relevant. I'm all over social media as far as the fans keep me on social media.
Mm-hmm.
I will say in the near future, and by the end of this year, I will make a major impact on pro wrestling.
Well, you know what? I think that is a good place to leave things off. Barry, thank you so much for the time. I
Thank
really
you, guys.
appreciate it.
I'm looking
Great
for
chat.
George.
George is hiding in the
George is hiding,
room.
or he's afraid. You know what it is? He's afraid of Mr. Technical.
He is.
He thinks I'm going to. He thinks I'm going to clamp on the famous Carl Gotch crooked head scissor. I promise you, I won't, George.
I'm upset because I just went to ProWrestlingTees.com and I don't see that specific T-shirt.
Really?
Yeah.
You saw my 4 other shirts, right?
Yeah, I see 4 of them, but I don't see the one that you're
wearing.
Know, the one that I actually want.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong. They make some. These may have been made in California by a good friend of mine, Jeff. He's Pro Wrestling Loot. And if I will, he's made my mini-me's. He's made my stick pin lapels, where it's just a miniature one of me patting myself on the back. And my newest and most proud of is the official Barry Horowitz yarmulke. It's really cool. What's cool about this for the fan, you could be religious or not. It's a feather in your cap if you are Jewish. If you're not, I'm not pushing it for that. I'm pushing it because the packaging is phenomenal. You don't have to open it up. And of course, when you put this on, this logo right here will come in the back of your head like the NFL logo does. And the cool part is you could pop it open and I could sign it across here instead of on the plastic, which would smear. And it's really a cool, different item. Nobody else has it, especially a Jewish wrestler, because I am the greatest legendary Jewish, wait a minute, wait for it, professional wrestler. Personified.
Now, if I wanted to get one of those yarmulkes, where would I pick it up?
Well, for right now, good question, Jack. For right now, they are live at the meet and greets. The main reason I like people to look at them, I could sign them right there in front of them. When you're going through the mail, they get lost. They could get smeared. They could get damaged. They could take days to get there. Did Barry really sign it? Which I would never do anything like that. But I want the fans. I'm always up and up. By the way, everybody says this, but my fans are really supportive. They're supportive and they're kind, really kind. Every time at the meet and greets, and they remember everything. They remember Jack Hart. They remember when my name was Bret Hart. They named me remember Barry Hart. They remember the Red Knight.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what I love about the meet and greets, I know you got to go, so I want to be sensitive to that, but what I love about that and being able to get that is it really makes your meet and greets can't miss and gives people the opportunity to get a really kind of one-of-a-kind piece of memorabilia you can't just buy on a store.
No.
And really personalized, which is cool.
Yeah, and Pro Wrestling Loot makes all my merchandise. They're out of California. They're phenomenal. Look them up. They've got all different things. They're always at their meet and greet, and they have the biggest selection of wrestling, everything. I've never seen anything that big. They just have tons and tons of different things. So they may have made this shirt. I'm not positive. I meet a lot of different people, and things get. I'm going to give you a great comeback answer when I get distorted upstairs. I'll quote the great Brian Blair. Too many chair shots. Although I've never taken a chair shot except to my back.
Smart move.
Oh, actually, I did take one by Joey Janela in that hardcore match right here.
Well, it's a hardcore match. It's got to happen, right?
Yeah, you got to have that, and you got to have the toasters, and you got to have everything. It's crazy. It's hardcore.
Can we expect to see you in a hardcore match again?
If the price is right.
And we will leave it on that. Barry, thanks again so
much.
Thanks,
guys.
Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing the impact you make in the future.
Oh, yeah. And I want to leave you with this, and it's I like both of you guys, but I have to leave my stamp with you. And basically, at the end of the day, I'm Mr. Technical Barry Horowitz, and you're not. Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Barry Horowitz looking to make an impact. Gonna have to wait and see what he means by that. But thank you so much for tuning in to the Wrestling Chatter. My name's Jack Farmer. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And make sure to hit the little bell so you're notified when we have new episodes coming up. We've got a lot of great interviews lined up. You're not going to want to miss it. Thanks so much, and we'll see you at the next one.